This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs. Nicholas Salkowski is the Communications Director for the National Center for Padre Pio in Bartow, Pennsylvania. Nicholas, thanks for joining us today on the program.
Thanks for having me, Bob. I really appreciate it.
We're going to be talking about Padre Pio and about the National Center. But before we do that, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, please.
Sure. So I am a married father of four. My wife is a teacher at the local Catholic elementary school, St. Francis Classical Catholic Academy. I have lived in this area my entire life. I graduated from Boyertown High School in 2006, a long time ago now. Um, I have four beautiful children that are our whole world. They are very involved here at the National Center for Padre Pio with me. My kids are here even today. Actually, they're here doing their summer readings because my wife also works part time here at our center. She handles our gift shop inventory, so she's here getting ready for our yearly inventory. Um, yeah, so I've been involved here really my whole life. My grandparents were the founders of our organization, so this is very much a family task and devotion. Um, I've worked here as an employee since 2017. Time flies. We've got a lot of great things happening here in Bartow, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about it.
Yeah. You obviously, you and your entire family have a great devotion to Saint Pio. In case our listeners might not be familiar with Padre Pio, just give us a little bit of a background of who Padre Pio was.
So Padre Pio is, of course, a Catholic saint. He was a priest in Italy in the early 1900s. He was ordained in 1910 and died in 1968. Padre Pio is most well known for having received the stigmata, the wounds of Christ. Uh, Many people don't know that he actually received them um, twice. He received them first in 1910. They were invisible. He felt the pain of them. And then in 1918, our Lord came back to him and made them visible for the world to see. And Padre Pio actually, he begged for that to not be the case. He did not want them to be visible. He was very afraid of the humiliation that he thought might come from bearing the stigmata, and so he asked Christ not to do that. Of course, he did accept, though, that it was going to be God's will done, not his own, and he bore those wounds for the final 50 years of his life. As you probably are aware, he also had many other charisms that were very well known at the time. He essentially, if he wasn't in offering mass or praying the rosary, he was in the confessional. He could read souls. People would flock from all over the world, really, to come and have their confession heard by Padre Pio. He became very well known over the course of his life.
So, when was he canonized, Nick?
2002.
So recent, relatively recently,
Yes.
and he pretty much spent his whole life in one little corner of Italy, correct?
Yes. So he lived in San Giovanni Rotondo at Our Lady of Grace Capuchin Friary for the last 50 years of his life. That is where he spent the vast majority of his time on earth.
So tell us about the National Center for Padre Pio. You said that your grandparents were the founders of it. How did it come about?
In 1968, let me start. In 1966, my grandmother gave birth to her fifth child, a daughter, Vera Marie. And Vera Marie was born with congenital defects of the urinary tract. She was essentially given a death sentence from the day she was born. She underwent many surgeries in 2 years, from 1966 to 1968, culminating in the removal of her urinary bladder, the total removal of her urinary bladder. Of course, we can't live without a bladder. Her surgeon was Dr. C. Everett Koop at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, who many people, I'm sure, know would go on to become the Surgeon General under Ronald Reagan.
Mhm.
And Dr. Koop told my grandparents to take your daughter home and make her comfortable because she does not have long. My grandmother, who had begun praying to or for Padre Pio's intercession a little bit before the surgery of the removal of the bladder, began to experience signs that her prayers were being heard. It started with a fragrance of flowers, fresh roses in her home. She had no flowers in her home, so it was very unusual. And then she heard what she would describe as a distinct locution. A voice told her to bring your little girl to me here in Italy. Do not delay. Come immediately. She did not know how she knew that it was Padre Pio, but she knew that she needed to take this child to see Padre Pio in San Giovanni Rotondo. She didn't speak the language. She had never traveled abroad before, but she took her 2-year-old, her newborn at the time, Christina. My grandmother had given birth to child number 6 about a month before this trip, and they went. They flew to Rome, and then they did the bus ride from Rome to San Giovanni Rotondo, which is about a 5-hour bus ride. And she made her way to that friary, and she was granted an audience with Padre Pio, 2 of them actually. The first audience did not go the way that she intended for it to go. Padre Pio did not even acknowledge her. He put his hand on the sick child's head and didn't say anything, didn't acknowledge my grandmother. And she was not happy about that. She made sure to go back again the next day. After Mass, he was brought out and into the sacristy. And this time, the second time, their eyes met, and she was able to speak to him through her heart. And she asked God to make a miracle through Padre Pio so that all of the people would believe. This was in early September 1968. They flew home. The family flew home, and there was a follow-up appointment with Dr. Koop at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and testing and scanning revealed that the bladder that Dr. Koop had removed had begun to regrow. Mm. And we know internal organs do not regrow. This was truly by the grace of God that this had occurred. And in thanksgiving for the great grace that she and the rest of the family received, she promised that she would make Padre Pio known to the world. And our National Center for Padre Pio is the culmination of that promise.
Wow, that's amazing. And so, which of your grandmother's children is your mom, or would that be right, I guess?
Yes. So my mom is Francesca. She is the 3rd oldest.
Gotcha. So you're talking about your aunt is the one who
I
was,
am, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. That's an amazing story. So they bought, what did they do? They bought some land and started the center.
So it started in my grandmother's kitchen at their
Wow.
home in Norristown in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
So in 1969, as you know, Padre Pio died in September of 1968. Only 3 weeks after their audience, Padre Pio died. So had she not listened, had she not gone immediately, that audience may never have happened, or would never have happened, and we might not be sitting here talking today. In 1969, the entire family went back to San Giovanni Rotondo to visit Padre Pio's tomb, where my grandmother offered Thanksgiving. And then she met with the friars at that friary, and she said that she wanted to do her part to make Padre Pio known to the world. That was her goal. That was the promise she made, and she was going to do it. So the friars designated her as their North American representative. Um, Here in the United States, she was situated in Norristown, as I said, and she begun corresponding with people all over the world. She wanted to travel. They took her. They made her available to speak at churches and seminaries and universities all over the world. They supplied her, of course, with materials that she could bring around with her to teach people about Padre Pio, prayer cards, medals, things like that. They provided her with relics, although, of course, at the time they weren't considered relics. They were just personal effects, personal items of Padre Pio, so that she could bring them for people to see around the world. And she began to receive hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and letters to the family home in Norristown. She also received visitors at the family home in Norristown. And of course, the home was not really the place to be receiving pilgrimage visitors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the family bought an old farmhouse property in Berks County, Pennsylvania, in Bartow, about a 45-minute or so drive from Norristown. And they converted an old barn into office space on one side and a chapel on the other. And people would come to the barn instead. So they would be able to come and have mass at the barn. While this was occurring, she was also simultaneously working on a land purchase. So she purchased 106 acres of farmland outside a few miles away from the barn. And that is where she intended to build our current facility on. Mm-hmm. The groundbreaking on the current facility was in July of 1998. And by May of 1999, this facility, the Our Lady of Grace Chapel and Padre Pio Spirituality Center, opened on May 2nd, 1999, the same day that Padre Pio was beatified in Rome by Pope St. John Paul II.
Wow, that's quite a story. My guest today on Catholic Forum is Nick Salkowski. He is the communications director for the National Center for Padre Pio in Barstow, Pennsylvania, not too far from our diocese. An easy ride, easy day trip from pretty much anywhere in Delaware and Maryland's Eastern Shore. What will pilgrims see when they come to your shrine, to your center?
So we have a beautiful campus. As I said, we're situated on about 106 acres. The first thing that people can do is come up and pray in Our Lady of Grace Chapel, which is a reproduction of Padre Pio's Friary Chapel in San Giovanni Rotondo. I was just in San Giovanni Rotondo for the very first time about a month or so ago, and the chapel reproduction here in Bartow is staggering in how it is so perfect to what is in San Giovanni Rotondo. When I was in San Giovanni, my breath was truly taken away upon seeing that. So you can really step into Padre Pio's spiritual life by visiting our chapel. We also have a world-class museum and cultural center that houses the largest collection of Padre Pio relics anywhere in the world outside of Italy. We have reproductions of all of the important places of Padre Pio's life. So you can start by visiting his birthplace in Pietrelcina. You can travel to the family's farmhouse in Piana Romana, walk through the choir loft that Padre Pio received the stigmata in at the friary in San Giovanni, conclude at his cell, so you can see where he slept, or a reproduction of where he slept, and finally end your tour at a replica of his tomb. So we really get you can walk through the life of Padre Pio here at our museum. We have a large gift shop. We also have a beautiful prayer candle garden. People can purchase their candles and then go out and light their candles for their intentions. It's truly magnificent.
What who should visit your center? Is it just for groups or schools, or could individuals and families? I mean, what is it? What is the center geared for? What type of visitor?
Individual pilgrimages are welcome. We receive pilgrimage groups, we receive church groups, school groups, really anybody who wants to visit to learn more about Padre Pio. You are welcome. There is no fee for admission. There's no charge. You can just come up and visit our center at your convenience. We are open 7 days a week. We are closed only on major holidays. So we welcome all kinds. If you have a priest that comes with your pilgrimage group, as long as they can provide their letter of suitability to our diocesan chancery, you're welcome to come and have mass and confession here. So yeah, anyone who wishes to visit.
And you occasionally have special events. Do you have anything coming up that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so in September, as you know, is the feast month of Padre Pio. September 23rd is his feast day. We do our largest event of the year. It is a 9-day novena of masses to St. Pio. We invite everyone to submit their prayer intentions, and they will be placed near the altar for each mass. So all of your intentions will be prayed for. And of course, this culminates in the feast of St. Pio on September 23rd. We will have several well-known bishops here throughout the course of the event. Archbishop Kurtz, who is retired from Kentucky, Archbishop Brolio, who is the president of the USCCB, and of course our own diocesan bishop, Alfred Schlert. So we invite everyone to make the pilgrimage, especially during that special time of year, to come and visit Padre Pio.
Also, on your website, I was interested in reading about the St. Pio Relic Tour. What is that? Is that something you folks are doing as well?
Yes. So currently we are in the midst of a national relic tour. 2024 is the 25th anniversary of the beatification of Padre Pio, as well as the opening of our current facility. So in celebration of that, we decided to do a relic tour for this year. We're about halfway through, of course, and people can find the other dates and locations for the remainder of the year on our website, padrepio.org. Right under the Visit tab, you'll see St. Pio Relic Tour 2024. Click on that, and you can see where we'll be the rest of the year.
Is it too late to, if someone's listening, to bring the relics to their parish or their diocese?
No, it is not.
So they can still sign up for that if they're interested. Great.
If they're interested, yes, they can do that by emailing info@padrepio.org or by calling our offices at 610-845-3000.
Give that number one more time, Nick, if you would, please.
610-845-3000.
And that's a place where folks can get more information or that and your website, which is padrepio.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very good. Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum, for sharing your family's story, which is a unique perspective, and telling us all about the the wonderful center for Padre Pio that you have there in nearby Barstow. And we wish you continued blessings with your ministry.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.